My name is Justin Wilkins, and this is my History in the News project. I'm here with two of my friends, Brian and Kathleen Almeida, and they're just here to give a sort of comparative difference between the US and Brazil since they grew up there. So, just to start things off, if I can get my notes ready. How old were you guys when you first lived in Brazil and kind of came back to the US?
Am I answering?
Either.
Definitely, I'm gonna let you lead the conversation.
Okay. So when we first moved to Brazil, I was 4. I think Brian was 5.
I think you're older.
What's that?
Yeah, I was 5.
Yeah. Wait, what was the other question?
Just how old were you guys when you first moved there and back?
Oh, and then I was 8 and Brian was 9 when we moved back to the United States.
Correct.
And where in Brazil did you guys live?
We lived in Goiânia. It's in the cap, or I think it's in Goiás.
It's like an hour away from the capital.
Yep.
Pretty central Brazil.
It's central Brazil.
Mhm.
How many people know it? But
Yeah. And if you guys could just describe kind of the area, what is it kind of like? Because I know back home we have the suburban neighborhoods, little towns in between, but how does it differ from that?
It's a little different. I mean, so houses, they're instead of suburbs where there's your backyard, front yard, it's actually like walls.
Oh,
So we have walls, and then or driveways kind of with things you open up so you can put your cars in. That was my house in Brazil. So it was like a little house, and most of them are 1 story. Like there's no going upstairs or downstairs, just like one level. Neighborhood wise, houses were right next to each other, like wall house. And there were stores, like little convenience stores, like everywhere. A lot of restaurants, and people mostly walk to like markets and clothing stores. It's like literally 5 minutes down the street.
More bus everywhere.
Or you bus to the city, or you take your car if you can. Yeah, a lot of graffiti everywhere. A lot of
Very
like
polluted.
very
People
poor.
don't care about the trash.
Yeah,
people do not
trash
care at all.
everywhere. Lots of stray dogs. And there's like a few parks recently, like they've been building parks everywhere. I think with COVID and everything, they want people to like stay away from like stores and stuff and just stay at the parks and do that. Yeah.
I know Brian told me when he was first coming to the US, one of the biggest realizations is that people's houses don't have gates. It's just
Yeah.
every yard is just open. There's just this huge plot of land. And it's just this is
Yeah.
yours. But that's just not what it's like in Brazil. It's just kind of more condensed, compact. People are kind of there.
Very
Yeah.
compact, very personal and private. Like at nighttime, nightlife is so much more different than day life because nightlife is more about safety and security, and it's kind of like just crime rates at night are just so much higher than
Yeah.
you expect. And it's always especially with our grandparents who raised us, it was always soon as sun was down, they're like, you better be back home, get out of the streets. No one hangs out in the streets, no one at all, ever. And it's always just suspicious and I don't know, you don't trust anyone when you're outside of your house at night. Not at all.
Like you can't walk during the nighttime by yourself because it's like the most dangerous time of the night. And the reason why we have walls, like Brian said, it's because otherwise people would just rob your houses. We have electric fence on top of our wall, and it's it doesn't work anymore. Now it's just kind of there to like scare people.
Yeah.
But when it worked, it was like a relief for us because we thought, like that could help and maybe like it will protect us from people trying to come in.
That's definitely like a scary idea that people could just like right when the sun goes down, it's kind of like hell just kind of breaks loose. Like everyone's just kind of fend for yourself, like do what you got to do.
Yep.
And with these like higher crime rates, I know in some cities in Brazil, like the police just either are way too active and they kind of create just a really bad relationship with the people with like abuse and everything, or the police just isn't present at all. And it's kind of like
Yeah,
gangs and crime
Right.
organizations just kind of run that area.
Either very corrupt or very
corrupt is the best way to describe
brutal.
it. And
Yeah.
I know that like here, police aren't, I mean, governments are corrupt, police systems are corrupt, but like there, it's like you call police and ambulances and they won't show up for like 3 to 4 hours.
Wow.
And it's like, okay, I shouldn't even
Like
call.
people don't get out of the way. Like when an ambulance has
Yeah,
its
no.
sirens, people like don't have to like get out of the way.
Really?
It's
Yeah,
not a priority to go save someone's life there. It's
pretty
like,
crazy. And I
yeah,
don't know how it's been. Kathleen was just got back from Brazil recently.
yeah,
Back, let's say 10 years or 15 years when we're there, you would never go outside with something electronic or something of like
it's
high
still an
value.
issue there.
Like I don't know if people walk around with iPhones. I'm sure they do.
Well, some of
But
them who've lived there, like, yeah, obviously, but like, um, my half sister, she works at a market and she had her phone out and they walked in and were like, give me your phone. And she was like, no. In those cases, you need to say yes because then they'll like, shoot you or whatever.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of that, like robbing iPhones, especially. Um, but if you have like a Samsung or something, oh wait, no, it's something. I think they steal Samsungs because they can like hack into it. But
Oh, yeah.
iPhones to them is no like good use, so they don't take those other than maybe trying to sell it. But
And just kind of like that aspect of just not feeling safe or just kind of having to watch where you go. Do you think in like the US, the children are kind of shielded at a younger age from kind of like these harsher realities? Where in Brazil, you guys just kind of had to go there and just do what you kind of have to do. And like you're kind of very open to everything that's like really happening in that area.
I mean, it really depends on wealth and kind of class area you are in, both US and Brazil. But I'd say in areas of kind of like middle, lower poverty areas, parents either are always working and they'll also have their kids working all the time because they need to make money. And if the parents are always working and the kid tries to work, some kids will not go to school and just be out in the streets selling drugs and making that commercial money off the streets because that's the easiest way because that's what everyone's doing.
Mhm.
And when you have easy access and you notice that, oh, my labor job makes less money than selling drugs, that's what people get hooked into. And a lot of gang violence in blocks, and it definitely way different. I don't know what it's like in the United States with poverty areas, but I'm sure there's areas just like Brazil where you need the crime to make money and support your family.
Yeah.
Definitely.
yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, um, you know how like there's this aspect of, when you're a child, you're supposed to like experience this like innocence aspect of life. It's not really a thing in Brazil.
And I still feel like we were pretty innocent. Like
Like
I just
certain
think
things,
of our
think
grade
about
time.
it.
Like in the daytime, all we do is play soccer with all the other kids, flyer kites,
Yeah, that's
like
how I think
hide
of
and
it.
seek. Like it was a lot in our neighborhood. It was really friendly. Most of the kids we always played with, but that was when we were like in our early, I'd say adolescence, kind of like 8 to like 12-year-olds, and I don't know what it's like there being a teenager, but I'm sure it's a lot more of a harsher reality than it is being a kid.
Yeah.
Than it is in a place like the United States, where education I feel like is so pushed on everyone here in the United States, where in Brazil, education is just it's like optional.
Yeah,
Very
it's a
optional.
choice.
Like
Yeah.
our grandparents didn't finish high school, but they're still common good people. And I think a lot of it in Brazil is common sense and survivability and taking care of your family through just what you know and what your family usually do.
Yeah.
A lot of it is either hard labor or farming.
Yeah, and just to go off
Yeah.
that term of like survivability, I'm sure that like definitely became such a like a more poignant term during like COVID, because it's like you already have this area that like you guys have been saying, it's like your innocence is kind of taken from you like at a young age. You're kind of just exposed to things. And I'm sure like during COVID, like some of that like didn't get too much better. And I know Kathleen, you were just in Brazil. If you just wanted to touch on like how like kind of Brazil's kind of handled this COVID crisis.
Yeah, so when I was there, we were on lockdown for a month. And basically, we just don't have enough resources. We don't have enough vaccines, or they don't, to, give out to people and stuff. And we have a lot of different strands of COVID, that are affecting like thousands of people every day. And my grandparents thankfully were able to be vaccinated, but they're still around like the 50s. Whereas here, like everyone can already get vaccinated or 16 and up. But, when we were
How are the people treating it
treating me,
or treating the COVIDs? Like how are just
oh,
normal?
most people, would listen, but to be able to survive there, you kind of need to like keep your job up. So I actually just remember this. So businesses, they would shut their um, like garage. It's like, I guess, and then they would leave it a little bit open so they could let people come in and, buy whatever they need, just so that if cops are coming by, they can just quickly close it. Yeah, that's what they were doing. Everyone was doing that, like in the cities and stuff, because it's just too hard to live in Brazil. It's such expensive, like products and stuff, and not make enough money.
Mhm.
So yeah, they were all doing that, which I thought was smart, but obviously like not helping the whole COVID situation.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
like
thought
the
that was
things
interesting.
you got to do in a
Yeah.
way. And it brings it back to just that aspect of like the government not doing like what they really need to do. But in a sense, I don't know if we can really say that either, because our government hasn't been like doing what they really needed to do in terms of COVID in the US. So
Yeah.
it's just like overall, we're just kind of screwed. But
I mean, COVID in general, I mean, I don't know. It's like a pandemic. No one really has the answer to
yeah,
like what's, right or wrong in the situation. But I mean, there's definitely better ways to handle it than what we've been doing.
yeah, definitely. And just in that like aspect of government and their control, um, I've seen some reports of like human rights abuses in Brazil, just in terms of like police, drugs, like just how like some people are treated in life in general versus the US. Do you think like with COVID or anything, those human rights abuses have gotten worse, stayed the same, or do you think there's just like it's just present either way?
I think it's present either way.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Um, Nothing changes just because something is like affecting, you know,
Yes.
some people, you know what I mean? Like life continues, and um violence is still there, like human rights is still there. Like that's, I don't know if it's
Policing is just so ruled with like such a heavy hand. I just saw a recent headline with a police drug raid and there are 28 killed. It's like they're shooting on sight.
I
Yeah.
read
I
about
think
that.
that's how they always been.
Yeah.
Even when our town, they had our police department, like the Brazilian intelligence, I guess, went through our neighborhood's police and found out that they were working with crimes and corruption. And instead of just trialing and locking them up, they just killed the police officers working there, murdered them.
Yeah.
Wow.
So the
Um,
government solves problems by killing.
So we had a neighbor who was, I guess, dating this guy who's like a big like drug dealer, like runs Goiânia where we live, like especially where like our town where we live, and he's in prison, but he has total control over the prison. He like runs it out inside of it, like outside. So he has people outside just like selling every kind of drugs, and the police officers like listen to him because he keeps paying them. So he can do whatever he wants. He has a television, like gets whatever food he wants. It's crazy. Someone was telling me who lived in our neighborhood about him, and I was just so shocked. I was like, I can't believe this is happening right now.
Is that like the type of things you see in like Breaking
Movies.
Bad and shit? Like this person's running the like ring from inside and outside the jail. And it's just kind of like while like that's actually happening in real life, and it's just not like Brazil. It's like all these other countries in the world. And if you just think about like how like these people kind of got to the point at like where they're at, like how when they're younger could things have like gone differently, like how could have like a system that was actually like not broken, I guess.
The system's always been money's power, money and power rules.
Yeah.
And it's so, I feel like in Brazil, so easy to like buy people out. Like if you're under a payroll and you're listening, you're gonna get your job, and that's what you have to do. It's intimidation. It's a lot of it's intimidation. Like that's why that fear is like drastically spread. Like at least from where we're from.
Yeah. And just kind of in general, like on top of that government aspect thing. Hello. Just on top of that, like political and government aspect thing, how do you think the political system is run in Brazil versus the US? Because I actually don't have much knowledge on this. No, in any capacity. If not, it's all good.
I don't know. I am not really sure, to be honest. I probably should know, but I just know the president Bolsonaro is just kind of not very good at human rights and doing things for his people. But based
I think
on
it's just his focus is he's such a trying to be like an entrepreneur and like rise Brazil's economy, but he's doing it in such a horrible way with all the like destroying the forests of Amazon. Like no one's asking for that.
Yeah,
you know what he's trying to do. It's more about the economy than the people.
Yeah. Money, power. It's
like
kind of the same
military rule.
I mean, when we had Trump, like that was his goal too.
Yeah.
And like they were best buddies. So, but I don't know.
Because I'd like read
definitely not good.
Yeah, I'd like read something recently that kind of reminded me like very Trump-esque about like the president of Brazil like trying to like deforest like the rainforest, I guess, in Brazil.
Yeah.
And like there's like certain people that protect it, and
I'm sure
they're getting paid out by like certain members of the government, be like, hey, like don't watch this area for a little bit, like we're gonna go cut some shit down, come back.
Right.
And it's like they're kind of exploiting those areas under the table in a way to just kind of increase their profit as a country by just kind of building like more and more places to shop and like create goods at. But then again, like you also see that in the US at the same time, because they had like the Keystone pipeline from Canada to the US, like national parks, like Trump trying to take those down. It's just like, even though like Brazil and the US are like different and have their differences, in a way you can kind of see through those differences and notice like similarities between the two countries.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean, one's third world, one's first, but there is definitely very same approaches to like leadership in these countries. But I think leadership's a different topic of conversation, but yeah.
And just to kind of end things off here on like a lighter note, is there some stuff from like Brazil that you definitely miss in the US, and then like vice versa in the US and Brazil, just kind of going back to back here.
Mhm.
The food.
Food.
That was like the best thing ever. Oh my
Food
god.
and fruit. A lot of it was organic. You ate a lot of organic
Mm,
and just good stuff. But if it wasn't that, you're just gonna eat some great street fried food.
yeah.
Like great fried food.
Another big thing is just like the whole like family aspect of it. Family is like everything there. You know, like you have lunch, dinner with your family, or if not during the weekday, like weekends, like this time you spend with your family.
Right.
And right now with COVID and everything, that's a lot harder because you don't want to like when I was with my grandparents, they really didn't want me to leave because obviously like they had a risk of getting it and not turning out so well. So it gets pretty lonely. So you definitely come to appreciate family in the long run when things like that turn out to not be so
And on
great.
the contrary, United States, like I feel like United States shapes you to be a way more independent individual, especially with going off to college, exploring your own lifestyle, living with a whole different environment, and like being away from the family at 6 months, at 18. Brazilians don't ever would allow their kids to go somewhere
No.
for 6 months and stuff. Like, if you're gonna study college, it's gonna be local, and you're gonna do transporting back and home.
Yeah.
You know,
You don't live in college. You're working and you're taking classes and you're taking the bus or however where you're getting there. There's some pros and cons to it, but a lot of it has to do with like,
definitely has changed too, and I'm sure there are way more
yeah,
communities with colleges where students are independent.
yeah,
But it really is a lot of family oriented.
yeah.
I even say like
Religion,
the
family for
educational
sure.
system is very different. At least from what I remember, educational system had a between at least when elementary school for us, there was like a morning section.
Mhm.
You either go to school in the morning or in the afternoon.
I think it's the same right now.
Oh, okay. Is it still like that?
I think so.
Yeah. So kids would either go to school in the morning and like work in the afternoon all day.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Damn.
Fun times living there.
Well, thank you guys for coming on and helping me out with this project. Really appreciate it. Professor, if you're watching, just like give me an A. It's pretty easy. But,
Yeah,
I mean,
definitely.
you can be the decider of that. But thank you guys. Hope you enjoyed watching.